My name is Caitlin Trujillo, and we're going to spend some time today learning some more about Webcheck by Impero. Hopefully you're joining today because you are interested in finding out more about how we can keep our students safe on devices. There's a lot happening in education right now where our students are maybe at home, our teachers are at home, maybe they're fluidly moving from different locations on campus one day, having to quarantine the next, and our technology teams are being faced with having to figure out how we can detect, intervene, and support our students in these various environments. Impero is able to provide for our schools a variety of solutions. We are able to get in front of any issues that students may be having concerning behavior in the classroom with our classroom tool. We provide a tool that allows schools to track student interactions on their devices if they do any unsafe browsing or browsing that would point toward an alert around student mental health concerns with our well-being feature set. And we provide a way to track all of this in Backdrop so that we're providing a platform for schools to consolidate all of this information and all of these different resources into a reportable, identifiable data set. Given that, if you're interested in any of those additional features, I'm happy to talk to you about those, but today we're focusing on Webcheck. And Webcheck is a way that we can get out and get in front of any malicious content that may be put in front of our students and making sure that they're secure in how they access the internet. My name is Caitlin Trujillo, and I'll be handing it off to Dan in just a moment for a live look at our Webcheck product. Just a little bit of housekeeping. It is a webinar format. As Dan already mentioned, we're recording this today, so we want to have everybody on mute so we can have the best recording for you. But if you have any questions, we encourage you to use the QA button at the bottom of your screen. We also have chat enabled, so if you want to chat with the other attendees today, or if you have any questions or clarification needed, you can use that feature as well. The QA is easier for us to track if we're addressing all of your questions. So if you would like us to answer anything live, go ahead and throw it in there. There is QA time set aside at the end of the presentation, but I think it's a better experience for everyone if we answer those questions throughout. So please don't feel like you need to hold your questions till the end. Go ahead and throw them in there as we're working our way through today's presentation. So I do have just one more slide to kind of take a look at and set the tone for what we're looking at today before I hand it off to Dan for a live look at the Webcheck product. As I was preparing for today's presentation, I wanted to highlight just a couple of important things about our Webcheck solution, and I have them sorted into some columns here. Something that really sets Webcheck aside is its ability to keep students safe when it comes to their accessing the internet. So that first column has to do with how students are accessing content online. Webcheck allows for dynamic classification. And what I mean by that is there are numerous websites, URLs on the internet that are uncategorized. That could be harmful, inappropriate content, but because it hasn't been categorized and set aside on a static list, it may be presented to students, and we don't do that. We use AI-powered instant categorization. Within a couple of seconds, if a URL comes in, a student tries to access it, and it's not already been categorized as adult content or safe for student consumption, then we are going to categorize that before presenting it to the student. Webcheck categorizes millions upon millions of websites on a daily basis. We also have SSL decryption, meaning that you have the ability to earmark specific regions if you don't want content from different areas of the world coming in and being presented to students. And I know Dan can speak to that more later. So from the content side of what we're keeping the students from accessing in Webcheck, those are two important things I wanted to point out. In terms of how we keep the student safe and how we provide a tool that's really student-centered, we do per user filtering. So we have the ability to not just say, okay, no student can access this content, but maybe we have some specific users and user groups within our domain where we want to provide different types and different levels of filtering. And we allow you to go really specific and granular all the way down to that student. And we also allow you to enable different safe search engine controls for different, what am I trying to say here? accessing the internet through Google or other search engines, that's the word I'm looking for, we allow you to centrally manage the safe search within those search engines from the Webcheck platform. So in terms of what we offer our administrative users, the granular policy management, the in-depth reporting. So you're centrally managing all of these different students, all of these different user controls, all of this different classification and grouping from a central management dashboard, and able to pull really detailed reporting so that you're able to understand an autopsy where students are going or prevent them proactively from accessing content that you've deemed unsafe. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Dan to take a live look at the product. And as he's going through it, I just want you to be thinking about these different categories. How are we preventing students from accessing unsafe content? How are we doing it in a way that's really student-centered? And how are we providing this as a really usable tool for our administrators? So Dan, I think you have the ability to take back control from me and jump into the live demonstration whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. My name is Daniel Lester, and I'm going to be taking you through the product today. I've got a few different points to go over, but I'm going to try and keep them a little high level, a little bit straightforward. But as we say, we will answer questions as we go. Now, first things first, I've put up on my screen the main interface, and we've got one of the policies selected. We'll talk about that in a moment. So just a quick word to structure. So there's a couple of different ways this software can be set up. The most popular and what we deploy the most is a user-based system. So we've got clients installed on each of the devices. We can support Windows, Mac, Chrome, iOS, and Android. So you would install our bit of software on those devices, and then you'll be able to control what internet access they've got. Now, once we put it on the devices, then we need to do a bit of organization. Now we have a group manager and a policy manager up on the screen, but this is perfect for setting up different filtering types and solutions for different schools within your environment. So you might want a completely different filter for your elementary schools compared to your middle schools. This would be perfect for that. We can set them up as individual schools. We can also synchronize with your domain system. So if you're using anything like Google or Microsoft Active Directory, we can just synchronize with those, copy the structure you've already built. Now, there is another way that we can set this up. We can do network traffic as well. So if your device is going home, user-based is the best. If you're supporting guest devices as well on the internet, on your network even, then you might need some additional, as in network filtering. Now, we'll go through a little bit about the policies in a moment, but let's just talk about the actual categories themselves. Now I've got one of the policies selected, and I've clicked on the category section at the top here. Now, we've spoken a couple of times about that we do things live. So we'll go through that story in a little bit more detail. So one of your students on one of your devices goes to a website that isn't in the database. Now, for a typical filter, that page would be displayed because it's not blocked. Now, for us, because it's not in a category, it would be automatically assigned to this category highlighted on the screen, a new URL. And what that means for you as managing your internet, you can say, if it's not in the database yet, you don't get to look at it. So you can say, until it has a proper category, it is blocked. Now, it only takes us a few seconds using the AI engine in the background to decide what it is. So we'll look at the links, we'll look at the content, we'll download files to give it a proper category. And then it would update, and your policies that you've chosen, what you've decided to turn on and off, would dictate whether that page would be available or not. Now, all of the content on the internet will fall into these 89 categories, and that includes the new URL category. So all you would do is go through these and decide what you do and what you don't want. Now I'm going to click on information instead of the others. So we've got some not horrible words on the screen, but anything you selecting here would be blocked for any user in this category. So a really straightforward system is a tick box, turn them on, they're blocked, turn them off, and then they're available again. So a little note to the actual live part of the categorization. Now there is a concept of exclusions, things that don't abide to the rules. For example, you could say YouTube is blocked for the school, but this channel is available, this video is available, or the other way around. You could say YouTube is available, but we're going to block these specific bits of that website. So you can make exceptions to the rules if you need to. Now, let's have a little look at something else. So the categories themselves are updated live, select them on and off to block them, and you can have them set up for different schools, different year groups, or individual students if you need to. There are some other parts in this where we can actually interact with individual websites and do some customization on that point of view. It was mentioned a moment ago when we spoke about safe searches. So what we'll do first is we'll do a big one. YouTube comes up quite regularly as an example of something that requires a little bit of interaction. Now, we'll do a basic example first. What we have here is a list of different parts of the website that we can interact with. Same logic as before. If you tick it, it's either enabled or blocked. And what I mean by enabled or blocked, so if it's safe mode, we're enabling safe mode. If it's viewing the comments, we're blocking that. Now, if the comments section on YouTube is one of the main reasons that you've disabled YouTube, if you could disable the comments, does that make YouTube appropriate for your site again? So there might be some options in here that release resources online, allow you to use these extra sites, but a bit more stripped down, a bit more focused to your site. Now, a couple of other things I like to do in here is make sure that they can't like or dislike a video or change the country that they're in. So you're taking direct control of this website, making it a bit more appropriate. Now, another example of how you can use this system, let's have a look at a Facebook page. So I have a feeling my internet's been a pain. Let's go to Facebook. Now, with these policies, they can be scheduled. So what you can say is statements like, Facebook is available on my devices, but the ability to log in and message their friends is disabled during school hours. Now, you might have a sports club or some after-school activity that uses Facebook pages to advertise what they're doing, what field to meet on, how much it is, that kind of thing. Now, if you block Facebook, they can't access those pages. But if you block the login, they can access those pages, they just can't log in and chat with their friends. So it's a way of making something a bit more appropriate, a bit more usable, and getting rid of the bits you don't like. Now, another part of this was mentioned already about if there's a country and the website's hosted in that country causes you an issue, all you've got to do is select it off the list and we'll disable it for you. Now, we'll click on Europe and we'll just click on any random country. Any server that has a GeoID based in Andorra is no longer available. So really straightforward again, just tick boxes. We've boiled this down to a really straightforward interface. You can change things quickly and you don't need a degree in Webcheck to be able to change stuff. Now we've gone through the main policies and the categories, and we've spoken a little bit about live updates. Now, there's a few more things in here, but I'm not going to go down the route of talking about the actual protocols and things. If you know what's on the screen, then there's good confirmation for you what's there. The other part of this that comes up as very important on a regular basis is a couple of the problems you face when you're administrating this. So blocking the pages, having everything updated, and everyone only having access to the correct websites is half the problem. The other two things you have to deal with is exceptions that you don't know about and reports. So exceptions you don't know about. So a staff member needs a website to be available and you don't know about it. Now they're going to try and get through to you at the time when they need it. But what we can do is we can put an extra piece on the deny page. So you can customize this yourself, put your school logo on here. You can put whatever text, you can forward to websites, but we can embed a login link. And the login link can be provided with an override. So you're in your class with your students, you say, if you finish all your work early, I will enable music for you or a game for you or something. Now, they cannot override any of the sensitive categories. It's more social media, games, that kind of stuff. So a teacher can self-serve and enable it themselves without having to come through the technical team. Now, it's only temporary and they can never override anything sensitive, as we said. Now, let's have a little look at the reporting. Now, there's a few different parts to the reporting. We've got a custom report, which we're going to look at in a bit more detail in a moment, but we also have something called quick reports. When you're setting up any system like this, generally on day one, you just want it to work. And you haven't really got time to come in here and build your reports. So what we've done is we've built a selection of reports for you. They're very general, but they'll give you an understanding and visibility of everything that's going through your system. Now, these have already been built, so all you've got to do is load it up. We'll push your data through this, and you'll see what's going on. So here's a few examples. But a custom report allows you to access any part of the database. So you can do individual queries. You could say, I want to see every website that this student's been to, every website that's been blocked for this grade, every blocked website that's this category for this school. All you've got to do is build your query and decide your date range and what information you would like in there. Now, once you've got the information you'd like, how do you want it represented? Do you want bar charts? Do you want a pie chart? Do you want graphs? Do you just want a list? You can make that choice in here. Now, this goes into quite a lot of detail because you can automate this. Once you build your report, you can decide where it's going and when it's going, and that can repeat. So we do the work up front, and then we don't have to do it again. So we've got our data set, we've put it in a nice graph, and then we're going to send it to an email address. Really straightforward. But you can see here, we've got blind carbon copy, email subject, and some contents in there. Now, you might email everything to like a backup folder or something that you create for your reports. So it goes to the staff member that needs it. So the year head might get everything for that year. The principal might get everything of the concern. The council might get anything for their subject. But you've also got a backup going to your blind carbon copy. Now, these reports, they're going to be going out to lots of different staff members with different backgrounds and different technical expertise. So we can change the format of the report. Generally, administration will want a PDF. They want something for their report, they want something for their log, they want something for their file. If it's from a technical background, it might be an Excel or a CSV that is required. But you get to choose, just a matter of choosing what format it's delivered in. There's even a nice little thing here that says there's nothing to report today. So just imagine for a moment, you set up a report that runs at the end of every day for the councillor. And the councillor gets an email saying, these are the blocked websites of concern for today. Now imagine there's nothing on that report and we don't send it. They will get an email to say nothing on the report today, because it will be very difficult for you to prove it's not working if there's nothing on the report. So just one less phone call that you've got to deal with today if we send that email out. Now, once you've made these reports for all these different people, they can be scheduled into a service. Now, here's some of the ones that we've got going out that we use. But basically, every staff member is going to get that report you've scheduled to them every day for the data set that you've said is relevant for them. So once you've made it, you don't need to do it again. Now, with this system, you're not restricted to just emailing internal staff members. If you have a parent that's very concerned about what's going on their son or daughter's device, you could email them a report for just their student, just their son or daughter, sorry. Giving them that reassurance that we are stopping all that horrible stuff. We can almost set it up as well to show the different categories and how long they're spending in each section. How long are they spending on social media? You could also do schedules or about something we recommend is a bedtime. So you could say, well, after 9:30, the student shouldn't be using internet because it's a school night. So you might set a bedtime as well, which is basically everything's blocked except maybe the school website. Now, after the reporting and the automation, those are the key points that we talk about most of the time. So we've got the live and continuous filtering. We update all of the categories live. You can make exclusions with our exclusion list. So you can say, even though YouTube is blocked, this channel is available. We can have the override system on the blocked page for you. So staff members can self-service if there's a page that they need unrestricted immediately. And you've got that automated reporting system. So once you've built your report, it's all delivered automatically to every staff member that needs it. Now, I'm going to stop the presentation there. Caitlin, I hope that's been okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Feel like there was a lot we covered there at a pretty high level, so I'd really love to hear if anybody wants to dive deeper into anything in particular. I think there's a lot of tools available within the product that we can't get to everything today. So if you have any questions, please do throw them in the QA and we can dig a little deeper together as a group here. One thing that I always think is really interesting about this solution, Dan, is the way that you can even have some granular ability to filter certain aspects of websites. Can you talk to that a little bit? I don't know if you are speaking or if you're on mute.
I was, yes, I was talking to my muted mic. Do you mind if I just take presentation again, and I'll just put that back up on the screen?
Yeah, that would be great.
So yes, there's a lot of websites in here that we can interact with directly. We did the basic example of looking at YouTube and a few sections inside there, but you can see there's quite a few different websites in here. So you can go to particular websites and you might restrict a particular part of that site. Like, for example, the ability to search in Amazon. So probably shouldn't be shopping during school hours. Now, as I said, this can all be scheduled and you can turn different policies on and off for different groups. So it may be staff members you're filtering, it may just be students, completely up to you. So there is quite a few different websites listed in here. The main hitters, the things that come up regularly when we're talking to customers, is Facebook and the ability to disable the login, and YouTube with the ability to enable the safe search, and that comes with Google as well. So if we go to search engines, you can go to confuse me there for a moment. We can go to Google and we can enforce the safe search in Google as well. Okay, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I think another common question, a lot of schools are using, different firewalls in terms of, protecting their networks. So how does this interact typically? Is this another additional layer of support for students that would be used in conjunction? Where does this usually sit on the student device in terms of on a technical level?
That's a very difficult question. It is a
I guess what I'm driving at is, I think this solution can be used. We talked about it being a per student, right? And so we can set this on the device and use it remotely, but we can also provide, if you're not interested in covering students outside of school, we can also just provide that coverage in the school site. So I guess what I'm driving at is on a technical level, what are the different setup options with the software?
there's two choices to make. The first choice is whether you want to filter the device off the premises or whether you need to support guest devices. So the first choice is, do we do a client install? So if it's a client install, if you want to, for example, you're going to send a Chromebook home with a student, that's a client install because the filter needs to be done wherever that Chromebook is, because it's not always going to be on your network. Now, if you've got to filter guest devices, then we install it on your network instead. Now, we can do both. We can do a hybrid, but we don't double book, if that makes sense. We don't charge you for all of your personal devices that the client's installed, again, once they're on the network. So it basically, how many devices should it be installed for devices that leave the network, and how many devices are you expecting on your network? So those are the questions for the amount of users we're going to support. Now, the second question is, do you want to run it on your network, or would you like it to be a cloud hosted system? Both options are available. We can run all the infrastructure for you, or you can run the infrastructure. There is also the option to do a middle ground. So you run the primary infrastructure and we run the backup services. So it'd just be a choice again. If you've got a data center and you want it running there, we can do that. If you want everything run as a cloud service, we can do that too. Caitlin, does that help?
Yeah, I think that answers the question. I know that we offer classroom level filtering through our classroom product. And we also offer the ability to grab students' screens through the screen capture in our well-being product. So I guess I'm just trying to articulate how this adds an additional layer of protection to students, in addition to maybe other tools you already have in your tool vault or that you're already using in your environment. Um, if you were going to try to say, something that you really think sets this particular choice aside from maybe some others they may be looking at, what is something that you typically enjoy sharing about this product with customers in terms of a cool feature or something that's worth mentioning?
I think the biggest thing is the live category updates. So I'm very aware that almost everyone in the industry says live updates. Now, with the internet involved, there's no such thing. Everything has some kind of delay. But the assigning something as a new URL means that we've accounted for that subtle delay that we have. Now, normally the delay in the industry is 24 hours or longer. We're doing ours in single digit of seconds. So you're covered for those seconds with the new URL category, and then we give it a proper category and update it within seconds, not hours, not days, but seconds. And I think that's a really big deal because, well, word gets around. If a student finds a website that isn't on a filter, all their friends are going to know about it in the next 20 minutes. That would be my favorite thing.
Yeah, and I think you did a much better job explaining it than I did at the top of the presentation. That's kind of what I was talking about with, we don't present those uncategorized sites. I think a lot of other filters out there are working from these kind of static lists. Okay, this website belongs on this list, and if it's not on this list, we're going to present it to the student. And we don't do that, and we're able to categorize so quickly. So thank you for reiterating and doing a much better job explaining it than I did earlier. And we'll pause here to see if there's any other questions, anything else that you'd like to dig deeper in terms of looking at it as a live solution. We're happy to revisit. I think what I'm kind of interested in seeing with the couple minutes that we have left is just kind of the user experience from the top. And I feel like if you're entering into the WebCheck dashboard for the first time, how do you get started? Like if you're a brand new user to this solution, what would that look like for the customer when they're initially signing in and getting used to
Fortunately
the
for a new
product?
customer, the first time they sign in, they'll probably have one of our training team or one of our technicians with them, talking them through it. So the first time you log in, there's probably going to be one of the Impero team with you, talking you through all the basic setups. But the first thing we would do with you is get all your users into one of the categories. So make sure everyone is filtered and you've got those basic controls to start with. So what we have in the system is some standards. So we've got like staff, primary, middle, and high. So you can get all your users in one of these ones that we've built for you, which is just a default. It just means that on day one, minute one, you've got something working, and then you can start fine tuning it for yourself. So I'd say from your point of view, the first time you log in, you'll probably have an Impero staff member giving you some advice, and we'll get them on those default policies until we can start tweaking it for your customization.
Great. We're hitting that 30-minute mark, which is about what we were planning for today. Happy to stick around for just a couple more minutes. If anybody does have any questions, throw them in the chat or the QA. Happy to address them as a live demonstration with Dan, or we can get back to you if it's something more detailed about your